Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha Kudash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Ecclesiasticus, the 11th chapter. Wisdom lifteth up the head of him that is of low degree, right? One that is in a low position, and maketh him to sit among great men. And that's basically through wisdom, right? If somebody's perceived to be wise, they can rise up in the ranks, very quickly. And as it says, sit among great men through their wisdom. Commend not a man for his beauty, neither abhor a man for his outward appearance, right? So don't judge, people based on their outward appearance, because somebody may look really nice, but they may be a complete airhead or a wicked demon. The B is, and this is here, he's basically saying, like, here's an example of don't judge a book by its cover. The bee is little among such as fly, but her fruit is the chief of the sweet things, right? Which is honey. See, and you love the honey, but if you look at a bee, you're like, damn, that's one of the smallest, flies out there. What can it really do? But there you go. Boast not of thy clothing and raiment, and exalt not thyself in the day of honor. Yeah, don't, because you got people that do that, right? They flaunt lavish clothing because they want the vain applause of people, like, man, look at that. Oh, that's so this, that's so that. It says, for the works of the Lord are wonderful, and his works among men are hidden, right? Because even the Lord with his wonderful works doesn't go about flaunting everything. There's some really wonderful works of the Lord that are hidden that you don't even know about. So it's not always about being flashy. Verse 5, many kings have sat down upon the ground, right? They've been brought to a low state, and one that was never thought of hath worn the crown. Yeah, you've had cases where you've had kings that, ended up, in a low state, right? And that's what sitting on the ground represents. Meanwhile, you have people, that nobody even heard of, right? Coming up and usurping the throne, or coming up and earning the crown. Okay, reading this in the GNTD, it says, many are the kings who have ended their careers sitting on the ground, while their crowns were worn by those no one had heard of before. Many mighty men have been greatly disgraced, and the honorable delivered into other men's hands. Right, verse 6 in the GNTD, many are the rulers who have suffered disgrace. Many are the famous people who have fallen into the power of others. Blame not before thou hast examined the truth. Yeah, don't, initially, right, the second you hear something, before finding out what's the actual truth of the matter, you're already blaming, right, or taking sides, or this. No, don't judge before you've heard the truth of the matter, because you could be judging prematurely. Understand first, and then rebuke. Answer not before thou hast heard the cause. So if there's something going on, don't cut somebody off right in the middle. You don't even hear what direction they're going with it, and then you give an answer and then find out you were way off. Neither interrupt men in the midst of their talk, for that very reason, so you can hear the whole matter. Strive not with in a matter that concerneth thee not, and sit not in judgment with sinners. Yeah, so if something is not of your concern, it has nothing to do with you, don't get involved in that, right? And sit not in judgment with sinners. Okay, that is to their judgment, as in their decisions, their decision making, their planning. Don't congregate with them. Verse 10, my son, meddle not with many matters, right? Don't get involved in too many things, for if thou meddle much, thou shalt not be innocent, because your hands are in everything, right? You're always everywhere. So if something goes down, everybody knows your face, and it's like, yo, you're not gonna be innocent, because you have a greater chance of, pissing somebody off or doing something wrong, because you're always everywhere, right? But it says here, if thou follow after, thou shalt not obtain, neither shalt thou escape by fleeing, right? If you follow after, you everywhere that there's, a matter, you're there. Something might go on, something might go down, and through you not being innocent, you're not going to be able to escape, even if you try to flee. So it's best to just stay, focus on a few things, Do what's important to you, and that's it. Focus on that. You don't got to be in everybody's business. Verse 11, it says, there is one that laboreth and taketh pains and maketh haste, and is so much the more behind. Right? And this is, you have some that work really hard, right? They they endure hardships, and yet they're still behind. It's like running on a hamster wheel. Again, there is another that is slow and hath need of help, wanting ability and full of poverty. Yet the eye of the Lord looketh upon him for good, and set him up from his low estate. See? So there's some have the ability, they're laboring really hard, and yet they're always behind. And then there's some who the Lord shows favor to, and they don't have that ability. They're poor, right? They're slow, but they fear the Lord. And so the Lord's eye is upon them, and he will set him up from that low estate. And lifteth up his head from misery, so that many that saw it marveled at him. Prosperity and adversity, life and death, poverty and riches come of the Lord. See that? So when when you're brought low, or when you're brought into abundance, if something goes wrong, somebody dies, that's all in control of the Lord. Wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of the law are of the Lord. Love and the way of good works are from him. So if you desire wisdom, you desire understanding, you desire knowledge, what did James say? Ask of the Lord. Pray to him that gives to us liberty, or liberally. Okay, love and the way of good works are from him. So if you desire it and you seek it and you pray to him, he's going to give it to you. Error and darkness had their beginning together with sinners, and evil shall wax old with them that glory therein. Right? So error, sinning, and darkness, it was embedded. It was born with the sinners. Okay, and those, it says, evil shall wax old with them that glory therein, meaning those that glory in error and sinning, evil is gonna grow old with them. It's gonna stick with them always. The gift of the Lord remaineth with the godly, and his favor bringeth prosperity forever. And what's one of the gifts of the Lord? Faith. Okay, and that remains with the godly. Wisdom, and she remains with the godly. Okay, it says here, verse 18, there is that waxes rich by his weariness and pinching, and this, what I guess I should say is the portion of his reward. Okay, and let's read this, Sirach 11:18 in the GNTD. It says, someone may grow rich by working hard and denying himself pleasure, but what does he get for it? Going into verse 19. Whereas he saith, I have found rest, and now will eat continually of my goods. Right? So you labor and labor and labor and labor. You work away all your youthful years, and now you say, okay, now I'm good. And yet knoweth not what time shall come upon him, and that he must leave those things to others and die. See, like the parable the Lord gave about the rich man who gathered into his barns, and the Lord said, thou fool, this night will I require your soul. So here it is, you labor and labor, you store up and store up, and then you don't even know if the Lord is going to call you up back to the spirit world the next day. Now, everything you've labored for, you don't even get to enjoy it. Somebody else is going to come and get to enjoy it. Verse 20, be steadfast in thy covenant, and be conversant therein, and wax old in thy work. Okay, so in whatever you're set up to do, okay, be steadfast in, and our covenant is with the Lord, right? And be conversant therein, be constantly involved in it, and wax old in thy work. Now, what is our work? Teaching the word of the Lord, right? Serving the Lord. So wax old in it, from the point where the Lord calls you into it up until, he says it's no longer time for you to do this anymore. Whether you're in the spirit world at that point, or your Yahweh has come back, you keep on working for the Lord. Solomon said that, right? That is the whole conclusion. That is the whole duty of man. Verse 21, marvel not at the works of sinners, but trust in the Lord and abide in thy labor. Okay, so you see sinners, they may be flourishing, don't let that get to you. Okay, keep your trust in the Lord and keep laboring, keep doing what you got to do. For it is an easy thing in the sight of the Lord on the sudden to make a poor man rich. The Lord can, just like that, you could be walking one day and a freaking lottery ticket fly and hit you in the face, and then, something just tells you, yeah, just hold on to it. Come to find out, you check the numbers the next, 2 days from there, and boom, you won. Okay, so the Lord can use many ways to make you rich. if he so desires. The blessing of the Lord is in the reward of the godly, and suddenly he maketh his blessing flourish. Say not. And so sometimes, you may just the Lord may just have you start gaining in abundance out of nowhere, and it may be a blessing that He is bestowing on you for something you did a long time ago. And it feels sudden, but really from the Lord it's all calculated. Say not, what profit is there of my service, and what good things shall I have hereafter? Right, that's verse 23. Let's look at that in the GNTD. Don't be concerned about what you need or what success the future holds for you. You got so many people that are always, oh, where do you see yourself 10 years from now? Where do you see yourself 5 years from now? Look, let's focus on the here and now, all right? If it ain't kingdom talk, it ain't relevant. Verse 24, again, say not, I have enough and possess many things, and what evil shall I have hereafter? See, and that's the mindset of being complacent, being comfortable. I'm good. I've gained a lot. Ain't nothing bad could happen to me now. In the day of prosperity, there is a forgetfulness of affliction. Yeah, so when things are going good, it's easy to forget, when times were hard. And in the day of affliction, there is no more remembrance of prosperity. When you're catching hell, those good times, you even forget what that feels like. That's the last thing on your mind, right? For it is an easy thing unto the Lord in the day of death to reward a man according to his ways. See, so even if it's on your deathbed, the Lord can reward you, whether it is like Hezekiah, right, to prolong his life, which was a blessing, or the Lord can do something even still more devastating to you at the point of your death. Okay, verse 27, it says, the affliction of an hour maketh a man forget pleasure, and in his end his deeds shall be discovered. Now, when you look at, I'll give you one example of this, Job, right? In 1 hour, all the bad news that he heard made him forget all those pleasures that he had up until that point. Okay? And as it says, and in his end, his deeds shall be discovered, right? Because after somebody dies, that's when you can look back on their life, right? You can see how the Lord dealt with them, right? And even going back up a couple verses, the Lord, it says here, he can, in the day of one's death, he can reward a man according to his ways. So you can see what manner of life a person lived by their end, how they meet their end. Verse 28, not always, but that's an example of how the Lord is dealing with them. Judge none blessed before his death, for a man shall be known in his children. Okay, and when it says that, because you don't know how things are going to turn out, right? Somebody might, they may look blessed in their first half of the years, and then everything goes downhill. Right, Saul, for example. Saul, in his early years, you would think, damn, he's blessed of the Lord. And then boom, look what happened and how he died. For a man shall be known in his children. And what it means by that, known in his children, is in the ancient world, a person's legacy was usually measured, by the character of their children. Okay, or like how well if they had a good name, how well it continued. So that was one of the means that they would use, right? How sure is his house? Verse 29, it says, bring not every man into thine house, for the deceitful man hath many trains. All right, and those many trains are many schemes. So be careful who you bring into your house. Be careful who you bring around you. GNTD, be careful about the kind of person you invite into your home, because clever people can fool you in many ways. See that's the many trains. Like as a partridge taken and kept in a cage, so is the heart of the proud, and like a spy watcheth he for thy fall. GNTD, it says a proud person is a decoy to lure you into danger. Like a spy, he will look for your weakness. And that's why, once again, you got to be careful who you have around you. For he lieth in wait and turneth good into evil, and in things worthy of praise will lay blame upon thee. So basically, he's constantly looking out for something he can call you out on, or something that he can, use against you. Okay, and even if you do something that's worthy of praise, as it says, he's gonna lay blame. He's gonna try to find fault with it. Verse 32, of a spark of fire, a heap of coals is kindled, and a sinful man layeth wait for blood. Right? So basically a sinful man, he's waiting, right, for like a spark, because you need a spark, right, to light a fire. And in this case, that spark is an opportunity, right? That's what the sinful man waits for. He waits for that opportunity to shed blood, okay, or do some iniquity, just like coals wait for that spark, to be lit on fire. Verse 33, take heed of a mischievous man, for he worketh wickedness, lest he bring upon thee a perpetual blot. See, so be careful of a mischievous man, somebody that's always plotting and scheming, because his thought process is to bring some wickedness or some, ruin upon you. Receive a stranger into thine house, and he will disturb thee and turn thee out of thine own. Because if you don't know him and you just bring him into your house, hey, you're running a risk. All right, GNTD, if you bring a stranger home with you, it will only cause trouble, even between you and your own family. Okay, and that brings us to the end of the book of Ecclesiasticus, the 11th chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.